Welcome back to Control, episode 46. We've pushed through the ashtray maze and we're now looking for the resonator. And we're going to just talk a little bit more about the way that you pace things. This game is generally not very well paced, but this part is very well paced. There's an introspective beat where you're trying to find Ahti in his vacation. Then there's an exciting beat where you push your way through the ashtray maze. And then there's another introspective beat where you get to see these red sands. These overlays, these environmental overlays like this red sand desert, are much more effective than Director Trench. When Director Trench pops up to mumble at me, I feel tired and bored. But when I see this red sands, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I know how I should feel. I should feel like I'm venturing into somewhere strange. And it was the same with Ahti's vacation. I knew that if I saw, the sun shining down on a lake, I was going the right way. I knew how I was supposed to feel. The overlays really worked well. They have so much more personality than Director Trench, and they explain at least as much, because the things you need to have explained are how you should feel, not whether the reactor will explode if it explodes. Anyway, this is just a very, very basic atrium. The thing that makes it pop is the visual. I also should mention there's a ton of construction going on outside my house, so I hope you like the sounds of construction, because you're going to hear them. It faded away like a mirage, which is basically what it was. And you can see that there's nothing here. It's just a flat wall that goes nowhere. But now that we're at the top of this hill, we can look back and we can say, oh, look. Easy peasy. If you reach this room early, you won't be able to get up here because you won't be able to fly. And that'll be a dead end and you'll be done. But if you can fly, you can go wherever you want in this room, including some fun little spots way up here. Now, this is an immersion breaker for me because I know these webbings, you can't stand on them. It's not how they work, but that's fine. It's just there to make things look cool. We've finally gotten to where we're supposed to go, the forward direction, the projector room. Until now, all the signs we've been following leading us to the projector have also pointed to the Hadron resonator. So we've been following it, knowing that the two are in the same place and probably are connected. We've heard a lot about the resonator so far, but nothing concrete. We just basically know that it keeps the hiss away. And so we are on our way to find out what's up with the projector and how is it connected to the resonator. And they didn't have to sit down and go, resonator, connected, projector, same thing, connected, projector, resonator, like before. Now they're letting us discover it on our own, and I think that's great. The ability to discover these plot points by just having the connections be implied by the way the level is set up is so much nicer. Now, obviously, at some point they do come clean and explain it in total, but I really enjoy them allowing us to discover these things instead of just talking at us all the time like they did before. So when you first get in here, there's nothing here, and you're very put out by it, and you're like, where did it go? Why is there nothing here? Oh my gosh. And it's like, you're surprised? There has never been anything wherever you've gone. Anytime you've been looking for something, it hasn't been there. That is how the game works. It's probably back at Central, because everything goes back to Central before you reach it, right? Well, in this case, we're supposed to push on through the other side.
First expedition. Communication is an issue. There is no sound there, as if you've gone deaf.
He's explaining the resonator and some of the issues surrounding it.
From an unknown source in part,
and we can sort of get a feeling like there's something cool going on there. Now, there's not very much interesting architecture here because it's supported very strongly by the hallucinations, which aren't technically architectural. But if we look down here, we do see this is a pretty nice little slice looking down back into the room. This is where we came up. And I think this is a really cute little side area, an overlook into an area that was extremely boring, but when you look at it from another angle, it starts to pop again, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's kind of interesting. Should I go back down there? No, you shouldn't. It's very boring. Here we are, back in the yellow wall sections. The yellow walls usually imply some kind of OOP research, in this case, Hadron resonance. let's go ahead and walk up this staircase. While the architecture is not terribly interesting here, the yellow walls are. They're a very important indicator of the sorts of things we should expect. And over here, we've got an elevator that we need to turn on somewhere. Doesn't seem to work, does it? Maybe there's a way to switch it on at some point. It just goes back down to that first room, in case you're wondering. So, the Resonance Lab is not one of those highly active labs. We're supposed to be headed over there, and instead we're getting like... This is like a storage room. So, the way to the Resonance Lab is through storage? That's interesting. But here we can see that proliferation of hypercube shadows again. And that's because they're trying to imply that the Hedron unit is not a three-dimensional unit. It's like a multi-dimensional, and you know, the hypercube is one way to sort of imply that, because that's a four-dimensional cube. I think it's a cool idea. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure that I agree with how it's presented, but it's certainly not a bad choice. We're in this lab. It looks dark and abandoned, like so nobody's been around for a while. Even before the event, this lab was clearly not a priority, not busy, which is interesting because the Hedron stuff is what protected the troops. So how did he shutter this lab? Why did he stop working here? Why shouldn't it have been putting out Hedron stuff left and right? Here we're supposed to get the hypercube shadow to pop, which we do just by lining up the elements. And you can see that the only problem is that we don't have... There, that should do it, right? Nope, got to do it like that. There we are.
Expedition 3. We located the source of the resonance in Slidescape 36. It is an entity, a living organism of a considerable mass. I've named it Hedron based on its physical shape.
Hedron.
We built a
Was
container
that
for it.
you? Did he bring you here? Is that why you brought me here? You're here. You're here. They have you. I know you. I remember her from Ordinary. I thought I'd never see you again. Hang on, I'm coming.
So that's the first time that a plot beat in this game has made me say, oh, that's actually interesting, and I actually feel like maybe the main character cares. I think it could have been paced a little bit better, but I can't, beggars can't be choosers. It's not a bad setup. And over here, we've got a picture of him shirtless.
Casper Darling, and this is my final message.
I remember when I first played this game, I was like, oh, the Casper Darling actor is
But after this, I won't.
is really a high immersion actor. He's an old guy willing to be mostly naked on camera and look like crap, and then I realized, oh no, wait, he's totally ripped.
It's changing me.
He's an old guy from the neck up, but he definitely works out.
See you. I've been shown so much. Slidescape 36 was where Hedron stopped the spread of another. It's terrifying. It really is.
So here we get the backstory, where we're talking about two conflicting resonances, and Hedron is our buddy and Hiss is the other. And the big reason that we're supposed to care about that is because he cares about that. If it was just explained to us, oh, these two things are vibrating and they're not getting along very well, it sounds pretty boring. But if there's people at stake, it's a little bit more immersive, and that's why they have this emotional scene with the doctor. The way that these characters get emotional about science stuff is a big part of why this game feels real, even though it's about kind of not very tightly woven emotional elements there. The emotional beats are surprisingly far apart and often flubbed.
Something wonderful.
Something wonderful. Now, if you're wondering about the history of this kind of emotional beat, you can even look back at Dracula. We can see the idea of someone slowly losing themselves to the charm of some strange phenomenon that the audience doesn't feel charmed by. That is classic, and I strongly recommend it as an approach because it lets you tell the player how the rest of the world's emotions feel. And that's often at least as important as how the player's emotions feel. The question is, how do we get down to the collider? And the answer to that is, I don't remember. Well, clearly, there doesn't seem to be any... See, there was a button here, but all it did... Oh, it opened the shutter. So I think we just have to go back down, and then it'll be open. But I don't believe that we're going to want to go in there right now. I think we're going to want to call the episode... Oh, there, turned on the elevator. I think we're going to want to call the episode before we go in. Yeah, so that's open now, but instead of going through, we're going to stop. See you next time.